Drake, I want to shift gears a little bit.
Yep.
And you and I have both been fishing now for, well, I think this is the third season, the new Lou's Speed Stick Walleye series of rods. And Lou's brought you and Tommy and Chase and several of the guys on Strike King, and Lou's brought onto the staff, several years ago to help develop walleye rods, walleye specific, technique specific rods, I should say. Talk a little bit about the Walleye Speed Sticks, if you will, and your impressions and your thoughts on them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was one of those things. I've never been able to help design a rod, so it was very interesting. Tommy Kimos and Jason Secure, Robert, and the guys. I mean, we did a ton of research into, and we actually got to go to a meeting. They said, bring your favorite rods and we're going to mix and match, and whatever comes out of it, comes out of it. Well, these guys did a great job of sorting all this stuff out, because we had a bunch of different ideas, and I think they came out with some great rods, whether you're, vertical jigging or snap jigging like we do, or pitching jigs around here a lot, all the way up to, Lindy rigging, slip bobbers, all that stuff. I mean, they kind of have a rod set up. They asked how many we'd like, and, we kind of said, 6, 7, 8 of them, in this range or this skew. And they really opened up the reins to do that, so that was great. It was awesome to see a company do that. It was cool to be part of it. Mm-hmm. And then the trolling rods too. I mean, it's crazy how many trolling rods you see out there. Guys are trolling, 6 to 8 rods, and I think they're selling a lot of those rods out there, because I mean, in the grand scheme of things, these rods are anywhere from $79 to $119. It's great for the average person that's going out there, doesn't want to spend a ton of money on a rod, but yet wants to be able to be efficient with it. And I think they kind of hit that there. Will we come out with some higher end stuff later on? Yeah, absolutely. But this gets the general public going in the Lou's direction, and it's fun to see and watch.
Absolutely. It is, Drake. And my take, and I've said this time and time again, when people ask me about the Speed Stick Walleye rods, what do you think? I always tell them it's a heck of a lot of rod for $79.99 if you look at those spinning rods. And like you said, there's a 6.3 jigging rod, there's a 6.7 jigging and glide bait rod, then you go to the 6.10, then you go to a 7 and a 7.5 foot. So there's 5 different spinning rods alone that covers, basically all the techniques that we're going to use with spinning for $79. And Drake, I'd like if you would talk a little bit more about those trolling rods, because I spend quite a bit of time at Christofferson's Bait in Alexandria, and I know the guys there say that rod has really been popular, or those rods. There's several different models. Talk about the trolling rods a little bit, if you would.
Yeah, so there's a few different styles. So you have the 6.6 and the 10 footers, which for the most part are lead core or fireline rods that you can run right off the boat. We didn't, a lot of guys don't like to run planer boards. We all get to run one rod around here in Minnesota. In Wisconsin, they get to run a few more, but for the most part, those 6.6 shorties fit right on the inside of your boat. Great for fireline or lead core. And then the 10 footers are right on the outside. It's a great kind of 1-2 combo when you're trolling 4 rods or 2 rods. It gives you enough room to get them away from the boat, yet you can fight the fish pretty well. And then as far as the other trolling rods, you got the 7.6 and the 8.6, which I've always been a fan of 8.6 rods. I mean, for trolling, they always seem like they're perfect. It could get your planer boards out, and it was always great. But I've fallen in love with the 7.6 shorter rods. They just seem like they're a little bit easier to handle. That 1 foot you wouldn't think would make a big difference. But for some reason, they're both very complementary to each other, but I'm falling in love with that 7.6, and I find myself leaning towards those a lot more. They're great for not only planer boards, but then also, just flatline. And a lot of guys pull mono or whatever it may be in Minnesota, because we can only use one rod.
Right.
They're great for that, because you can see, a little crank down there a long ways, little hornet or whatever. You can see that bugger working down there at a long ways out. So
right,
that's
right.
a huge thing.
And that's interesting, Drake, because I've been using all the different trolling rods too. And you said the 7.6 has become your favorite. It's become my favorite as well. I absolutely love that rod. And the cool thing about the 7.6 and the 8.6 is they both telescope, so they can fit into rod lockers easily too.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest things. You should have seen how long we tried to get a 10-foot telescoping rod. I don't know how many times they tried. It's just not doable. So the fact that we got the 7.6 and the 8.6 and telescoping was huge, and it's awesome to be able to collapse them down and get them into any rod locker that you need. So
yeah, that's cool.